Right, this time it's my pleasure to swear in the newly elected members of the Gonzales City Council. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Having been duly elected to serve the city council for the position of
Appointed to serve the city of
board,
City Mayor.
do solemnly swear and affirm
Do solemnly
that in performing the duties and responsibilities of said position,
That.
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
and the laws
and the laws
and regulations of the state of New Mexico,
and regulations of the state of Mexico,
and perform the duties of said position
and perform the duties for said position
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
We had to do that to have a quorum to call the meeting to order.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
We'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and welcome our new council members and congratulations. Look forward to working with you all. I'll ask the clerk now to call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Rackler,
Present.
Ms. Cordova. Here. Mr. Self is absent. Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Mr. Merrick,
Here.
Ms. Parker,
Here.
Mr. Robinson is absent. And then one vacant position.
And I'm here also. Okay, so please stand. Councilman Parker is going to lead us in invocation and Councilman Merrick is going to lead us in the pledges.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you tonight, God, for those servants, our mayor, our city manager, our city staff, and our city council members. I give thanks for the way our service we have chosen to take on behalf of all of us here. We all come to this room tonight as complex human beings, carrying burdens, carrying joy and hope, trusting that you alone can hold us together, oh God, in your love and peace. Help us, O Lord, to trust in you more, and we please pray for rain. In your heavenly name we pray, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico.
Thank you. I have one announcement before we go to public comment. I noticed that several people here are here to speak on an ordinance that is on the agenda. First of all, we are going to go ahead and have some discussion on that. It is not an action item this evening, so there will be no action taken. Just had a discussion with the city attorney. If something is adopted, it will not be an ordinance. It may just be a policy by resolution if we should do that, but we will go ahead and have some discussion on it. Just want you to know there will not be any action. So with that, we'll move to public comment. The public has an opportunity to provide comment on subject regarding city business during the public comment period. Speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless the mayor and or councilors request more information. The time limit is given in an effort to allow public input, but also to move the agenda forward in a prompt yet efficient manner. All speakers must sign in at the beginning of the meeting. Topics are limited to 6 speakers per topic. The first person I have on the list tonight is Leslie Rector, and you did not put your topic down, so. You're welcome. Oh, you thought it was a sign-in? Okay, no worries. Next is Qualeen Parkey Water.
Good evening. For the record, Qualeen Parkey. I would like to urge this council to set up a meeting with EPCOR and that meeting be a public meeting where all interested parties can attend. Now that it's gotten to be winter and no one is growing gardens or wants to, the water issue seems to have taken a back burner. And I would urge us to move it back to the front burner. As many have pointed out, we as a community need to look for any and all solutions to our water issues. So I'm going to ask you to please contact EPCOR and ask them to come to our town and present options that are open to us with partnership through them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Kay Elak on the proposed ordinance.
Mayor and council members, I want to thank you for the time allowed to speak. I would like to address number 9 on the proposed ordinance. And it states, no speaker will be allowed to provide comments on matters if they or a family member or a business entity where they are employed or have an interest is appealing a decision from a city board, council, or commission that is on the agenda for the meeting, for that meeting, or is still pending. I just want to say that I think there are two sides to every conflict. And if a person faces a decision from the council, I think they have a right to express his or her concerns and should be allowed to tell his or her side of the story. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who was next on the ordinance on this list? I cannot, oh, Alan, okay. Didn't read your name.
Alan Carter. I was taught cursive. Can't write well, but I was taught cursive. Thank you, Mayor. I also want to talk about number 4 on the ordinance. There will be a limit of no more than 3 speakers allowed to provide public comment on any one item of the agenda, and maximum of no more than 6 speakers in a total allowed to provide comments on items that are on the agenda of any regular scheduled city meetings. If there are more than 3 speakers who sign up to speak on one item on the agenda of any regular scheduled city council meeting, the names of the 3 speakers who will be allowed to speak will randomly be selected by the city clerk or acting city clerk prior to the list being given to the mayor. Yeah, you know, I take issue with this because it feels like, and I'm not throwing stones, but it feels like this is kind of like when Joe Biden gets in front of the nation and says, well, CNN, no, you sit down, MSNBC. I think that we're better than that. I think the citizens that have the opportunity to come and speak to the council ought to be heard. I do understand that you have to have some sort of regulations, if you will, so it doesn't go till 3 a.m. I get that. But I chose the ordinance, but I wanted to also, because of the ordinance, I don't remember which one it is, but I also wanted to talk about water, because I think I can do both within my three-minute time frame. So that's one issue. The other is water. And so, you know, hopefully you guys will look at that ordinance, because the front burner probably does need to go back to being water. And anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alan.
Thank you.
Mike Davidson, same ordinance.
Yes.
Well, Mike, based on what you said, you kind of caused me to eliminate 2 of my paragraphs. So My name is Mike Davidson. And what I wanted to start with was item number 3. I feel like this should be stricken in its entirety. It shouldn't matter whether an issue has been discussed before until something passes. I would say let the people speak about it. I have seen counselors change their minds at the last minute because of new information. Regarding items 4 and 6, I feel like there should be no limitation that citizens speak only on action or agenda items. Week after week, nothing was said about our water situation. And because of that, tensions between the public and the council reached a peak. I carefully chose that word. I was going to say they were boiling over, but I thought that was too much of a pun. So I chose reached a peak. The residents had to pry information from the city council. Nothing was volunteered about our animal shelter problems. Again, it had to be pried from the city council. Recently, a gentleman came here that had trouble simply getting his water turned on. That was not on the agenda, but 1 3-minute speech, and it was resolved for him, and he was a businessman. I grant you, I do not want to hear about custody battles or grandchildren's bowel movements, but the citizens should be allowed to speak about city business, period. We are conditioned to believe if you can't get your issues resolved, go to the city council. They represent you. I would hate to see it where we find out, hey, I'm sorry, your issue is not on the agenda tonight. Regarding item number 10, I don't think anyone should have the authority to cut off a speaker in the interest of time if the speaker is under their 3 minutes. We are already controlling people by giving them only 3 minutes, which, by the way, is very hard. In our situation, I believe that the mayor is the one that approves the agenda, and establishing an ordinance that limits conversation to agenda items only translates to one person controlling what the public can or can't talk about. And I don't think that is the framework that the citizens of Portales want. I think we will be watching closely who supports these. At present point, overreaches, but I'm encouraged by some of the things that you said. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, on this same subject, Donnie Romero.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abel Garcia. I'm actually with Donnie Romero. I work for Home Spot Properties. And we do real estate, manufactured housing, property management, as well as construction. And we're just here on the agenda of the recommendation for the approval regarding the annexation of the property on 22nd Street. One of the biggest reasons I am here to help with Donnie, and I've been helping him with this, is I know there was a question of why we were doing trying to get city water to this property. Being in the business, and I'm sure many people have noticed, cost of living or constructing right now is getting up there. And one of the biggest things that we ran into is to get a well nowadays. My most recent estimate has been pretty close to $25,000 to $30,000 just to get a well. So we felt like doing the annexation would help him get into the city ordinance and help him get water. That was one of the biggest reasons we were doing this. So we're asking to help us get into his American dream. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And last, Angie Smith.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you this evening for letting the public speak. I too am here on ordinance 769. As representative of of Right to Life and of the Republican Party, one of the things that we're always trying to do is encourage our citizens to be more engaged with their government, to be involved, pay attention, and engage, not adversarially, that should be a last resort, but to engage as a partner, as teammates, in what it takes to make our community the best it possibly can. And this ordinance, there are some parts of this ordinance that seems to fly right in the face of that, because it seems to want to squelch, it feels like it wants to squelch and control people rather than encourage them to come and be a part of the solution, and not be part of another kind of problem. Number 3, there will be no public comments allowed on any action item on the agenda that is coming before the council from a committee or board that is already provided for and allowed public comments. Sometimes those committee meetings happen in the middle of a business day. And so not everybody gets to hear what somebody may say in those committee meetings. And if somebody's willing to take time out of their day and in the evening to come and present it, they should be able to. Not all city council members sit on those committees, but they're the ones that are going to be voting. So if a person's willing to come and speak at the council meeting as well, they should be able to. Number 7A, this is nitpicky, but it's important. It says the time begins the moment the speaker arrives at the podium. I've been at enough meetings that sometimes something happens, maybe something text, something goes on, people are talking. They're standing there for a few seconds, maybe even getting their thoughts together. The time should begin the moment the speaker begins. Now, we want to encourage them, come with your notes, be ready to go, to make sure that our time is not being wasted. But it should begin the moment they start speaking, not the minute they step up to the podium. And finally, at the last meeting where Mr. Doerr was talking about the Safe Haven baby box, there were issues he brought up. I could have brought and illuminated more information on. I was not permitted to speak. Had I known better, and there was some miscommunication, had I known better that would have been a discussion, I would have made sure I was on the agenda so that I would be able to speak to that. I was so frustrated after a year and a half of working with the council and working with Right to Life to get the Safe Haven baby box here. And the moment where it seemed like something could torpedo it and not have the opportunity to illuminate on the subject was hurtful. And it was very disappointing. I encourage the council, can we find a way, some way, that if there's somebody in the audience, the council members know has information on that, could illuminate on the subject to avoid any confusion. Can we find a way to let them participate, even if it's not at the very beginning of public comment? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment for this evening. We'll move on to our agenda. Our first item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting held December 12th, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Cordova. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Next is our presentations. We have 4 of those this evening, 5, I'm sorry. Our first is Employee of the Month for December 2023, Ms. Austin.
Ms. Kelly is gonna present this one. She's going to make it on. So my nomination is Miss Handy. Miss Handy's here to be embarrassed. So when Tammy was first hired, she was hired on to be the admin assistant for planning and zoning and to handle building rentals. But about a year later, she's taken over business registrations and is now the admin assistant to the airport, animal control, code enforcement, on top of planning and zoning and her original duties. She never complains about all the time she has to help some of the community services departments with the POs or her technologically challenged boss whenever I can't figure out how to use the printer. She's helped set up and plan city events after hours and helps renters on the weekends. I never have to worry about things being done or things being done incorrectly. For all those reasons and more, that's why I nominated her this month. Employee of the month.
Congratulations. Thank you for all your work. Anything you want to say?
Thank you.
In here for the next 2, then we have a couple of 5-year pins, and I'll read the letter. The first one goes to Kathleen Woods, Community Enforcement Supervisor. Dear Ms. Woods, in recognition of the thankful service you have rendered, the City of Catalice is pleased to present you with a 5-year service award. Skill, knowledge, and judgment comes for many years of experience is invaluable, as well as being a testimony of devotion to duty. On behalf of the city of Portales, administration, and your fellow employees, we are pleased to present this award to you and congratulate you on your accomplishments. Thank you so much. And one more. This one goes to Eric Duran, wastewater treatment plant foreman. In recognition of faith and service you've rendered, the city of Portales is pleased to present you with a 5-year service award pin. Skill, knowledge, and judgment comes from many years of experience. It's invaluable, as well as being a testimony of devotion to duty. On behalf of the city of Portales, its administration, and your fellow employees, we're pleased to present you this award to you and congratulate you on your accomplishments. Thank you so much.
And heal up quickly.
We have one more proclamation, but I don't see the person we're presenting it to is in attendance, but I would like to read it nonetheless. Goes to the chairman of our Cultural Affairs Committee and a member of the Martin Luther King Commission for the state. Proclamation reads, whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to the goal of establishing equality among all races and genders, as in his speech, I Have a Dream. Whereas the city of Portales, in conjunction with New Mexico State Martin Luther King Jr. Commission and Eastern New Mexico University, is proud to celebrate the awareness of nonviolence and social equality throughout our community. And whereas we celebrate this day with hopes of emphasizing the importance of peace through justice and respect for our fellow man based on their character. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Michael Miller, Mayor of the City of Portales, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim this 15th day of January 2024 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Portales, and urge all citizens to join the country in following Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of equality for all. And we will get that to Councilman Robinson for that celebration on the 15th. We're gonna move now to discussion and action items. You're
No.
This one.
E.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, chief. I said 4, then I said 5, and then I went back to 4.
I was headed back to my seat, sir.
Okay, this is Employee Recognition Challenge coins, firefighter Hector Garcia and firefighter Ethan Tapia.
And council probably remembers, and thank you for allowing me to present these to our individuals. A few years ago, we purchased challenge coins that are serialized. And once our employees reach certain benchmarks, they earn their serialized challenge coin. Those benchmarks are firefighter 1 and 2, EMT intermediate, and employed with the city of Portales Fire Department for a year. And we're blessed to have 2 individuals that have earned that here in the recent future. So I'm going to read this real quick. Firefighter Hector Garcia began his career with Portales Fire Department on March 7th, 2021. Obtained his EMT basic license in June of 22, obtained firefighter 1 and 2 in August of 23, and obtained his EMT intermediate license in December of 23. With Hector's accomplishments and time service, he's earned his serialized challenge coin. And his beautiful wife and son are here. So Olivia, Mateo, thank you for sharing Hector with us. Go ahead and come up, Hector. Next, we have firefighter Ethan Tapia, began his career at Portales Fire Department on April 3rd, 2021. Obtained his EMT basic license in April of 22, obtained firefighter 1 and 2 in August of 23, and also obtained his EMT intermediate license in December of 23. So he's earned his challenge coin, and his parents are here with us today. So Benny, Shirley, thank you for sharing Ethan with us.
Congratulations, guys. And Chief, I appreciate you bringing up their family because it is a sacrifice.
Yes, sir. They are the unsung heroes of the
I
fire.
appreciate that very much. Thank you. Now we'll go to discussion and action items. Our first item is a little misrepresented here on the agenda, but it's the election of our mayor pro tem. It says an appointment, but the mayor pro tem is elected from amongst the council. And it's their recommendation, not the mayor's recommendation. So with that, I would open up the floor for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Veronica Cordova for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? If not, could I have a motion to accept?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept that nomination.
And with no other nominations and accept her by acclamation. Would that be the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can
we get that, Ms. Swopes?
Pardon?
The motion was to accept Veronica, no more nominations and accept her by acclamation. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rackler, a second by Ms. Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Veronica. You get to sit here.
Now.
Okay, you can move here now, or you can stay where you're at. Okay. And see, I need somebody to keep me in line when I miss things. That's what I used to do with Mayor
Well,
Jackson.
First of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for the confidence in me, and I appreciate this, and I really look forward to serving in this capacity. So thank you.
All right, our next item is a public hearing for approval of application license number 4036 for a transfer of ownership and change of location of retailer liquor license number 4036 with package sales only at 403 North Main Street in Portales, New Mexico. I would now take a motion to enter into public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Parker, a second by Mr. Merrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We are now in a public hearing. I would ask that anyone that's in support of this action, please, you're now eligible to come to the podium and speak. Is there anyone in favor? Is there anyone in opposition to this action? Okay, seeing none, I would now ask to take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Cordova, second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I may have done that out of order and I apologize, but I do have a couple of questions on it.
That's fine. Public hearing is for the public.
That's
And
fine.
now that we're gonna
I'm
do
just
the
making sure.
action, this is time for your questions. So the next item is action by the council on the application license number 4036 for 403 North Main in Portales, New Mexico. So now, Mr. Rackler.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions and we're going to training next week to get better at all this. So give me a break. I've been coming for a while, but it's a little different when you're on this side. I have two questions. I was reading through it very carefully and I'm concerned. I want to make sure we followed all the public hearing notices that are on page 14. There were two different times we had to post about a public hearing. I just want to make sure all of that was done before we sign off on that. I didn't see them, but it's kind of hard to see public notices when we don't have a paper or anything, so.
Sure. It is a little challenging that it's only printed twice a week, but they were printed.
Thank you.
And yes, it did have to be changed. But the change was also corrected and published 2 times.
Thank you.
And as long as we've got the approval and permission to do things that way by the New Mexico regulatory license for the alcoholic bureau division of that board, then we're good.
Thank you.
So, sure thing.
The second question I had was, I know in the past we had limits on the number of licenses our community will have, and this one's coming from Las Cruces, so that makes it an additional license to our community. Are we within our limits or whatever? Are there still limits? I know there were at one time.
I think I can probably answer that. There are new classifications of license, and some of those licenses are eligible to be moved from community to community, not all license. So, and this is one of those licenses. That's what makes those kind of licenses more valuable. So they do not count towards, like I think the first time we had 5. That's what we were limited to. And so now this type of license can be moved from community to community.
Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else have any questions regarding this? What's the pleasure of the council regarding action on this license and the transfer?
I make a motion, Will.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Ms. Parker. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item is from Community Services, and item A is recommendation for approval of resolution PC 2023-2024-19 for annexation of property addressed at 615 West 22nd Street. The property meets all the requirements for annexation. Ms. McClellan.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So this, as was covered in the public input, is an application for annexation into the city of Portales. One of the requirements is that it be right congruent against the city boundaries. So we did mark the current city boundary in red. The green property that you see highlighted is the property in question. The property is totaling 3.656 acres of land. This did go to planning and zoning last month and was approved or was recommended for approval. Go to the next one, Ms. Chris. So this property does need water services, which is part of the main reason that they're doing annexation. We do have to check to make sure that the city has the resources to take care of them. Police, fire, water, and sewer were all talked to, and they said that they could handle this extra parcel. We did have one person who spoke against the annexation with some clarification concerns that the city's resources would be strained to add just one more additional residence, and they wanted that to be brought up. Go to the next one, Chris. And we did publish this in New Mexico News to the public hearing. We sent out 18 letters. We didn't receive any letters back from property owners. We sent out 5 certified letters to public utilities and received 3 back for the proposal. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Ms. McClellan on this?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I was the one at that meeting that spoke in opposition. My concern was that the only reason we were asking to annex this was to get city water rather than county water. It wasn't presented at that meeting that the possibility was only city water versus a well. That wasn't the way it was presented. It was presented as city versus county, and to me, annexing a property with a single residence on it only for water purposes just didn't make sense. So if we could clarify that, if it has the option of rural water, that's my concern.
I'm not sure if they have the option.
We did, for some reason, the co-ops said they did not have access to it. So they would not. According to who was spoken with the co-ops, they couldn't get water to us.
Mr. Mayor, well, do you know, what's the reason they couldn't get the water to?
They, there's no. There's no infrastructure board. It's really, there's no line near it.
Okay, so I have a question for clarification,
Hold
because
on just a minute.
yeah.
Are you done with your questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, go back, if you would, back to the map. So in red is where we have that city line.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this green is in the county.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're wanting to build a residential house there.
Yes, ma'am.
And so in order for them to get water, they would have to do the well. And you said that's what, $30,000, $25,000. So you're wanting to be annexed into the city, therefore to get the water, but the county would not be able to provide water for you. I'm confused as to why the county would not be able to provide
My
water.
understanding is because it was a city service, they would.
But the
run-
property is in the county. Yes, I'm sorry.
So either way, it's gonna be city water. you know, the county.
Right.
We understand that, but it seems the buck's being passed to the city rather than providing water. I'm just trying to figure out why. If it was being subdivided where there was gonna be a road and some other residences or something, I could see annexing it in for more. But for a single residence, just for water, just didn't make sense.
And this will be annexed in as an R1, which is a single family residential.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Kelly, the property directly to the left, is that in the city limits?
I don't believe so, but that area is kind of funky. We do have quite a few there, so I wouldn't say.
Is that
I
alley
believe,
to, right behind that property is on the backside of Yucca Edition?
yes, so I believe it stops at Yucca, but I don't want 100% lie to you because I might just have. But I know you're right. 22nd where the alley is, that over there is city.
Okay, so I'm still confused and concerned because this is just going to open up, I don't want to say a can of worms, but if somebody lives in the county and they can't get water, they want to be annexed into the city so they can get city water.
Yes, they can also, I believe I'm gonna look at Chris Mendoza for this, they can also be outside users. If approved, where they can stay in the county and get city water. But annexation is usually the better.
And that property right next to them too, they are city water in the alley.
And we've already got properties down Kilgore, same.
Yeah.
On the east side.
But in order for them to be annexed, they have to be basically up next to city.
Yes, they must be congruent, there can't be,
They can't-
they can't be surrounded by county, it has to be pressed up
Okay.
against the city in some way.
Wow, that's weird to me.
I got another question.
Go ahead.
What is it gonna take to get the water from the city over there?
Their rate, really, the city's only gonna have to put the meter in. We will take care of everything before, but we've already taken care of the to get it to the property.
So do you know if those properties on the east side of Kilgore, are they actually annexed in to have the city meter? Or do they just have the city meters supplying?
They're off the city main.
Yeah, but
They are annexed.
the property itself, is it annexed into the city?
I have somebody saying yes and somebody saying no.
It may be something we look up.
Real quick.
Properties on the east side of Kilgore are county.
That's what I
But
thought.
they have sewer and water available to them, because it runs down that bar ditch up right next to the cemetery all the way down.
That was why I was asking the question, because I was wondering if we would not just be able to supply them with a water meter and not annex them into the city.
But we didn't annex those things on the other side of Kilgore and we extended the city.
I have a procedural question. In my packet behind this is a notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to annex this property. But we do not have on the agenda that I can see anything to do a notice of intent to adopt an ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know. When I saw that, I assumed that was just for your information that if you approve it, it's got to go through the ordinance process to get in.
Yeah, it's just for discussion, information purposes of this land.
Well, the ordinance says that it would, it's scheduled for this date. Or the notice of intent said it's scheduled for this date.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know why that date's on there, because you have to go through the inducement, and everything else. And you gotta publish that for, I questioned it why the date was on there, but it has to be brought in through an ordinance. If you approve it today, then we'll bring back the ordinance and everything for you at the next council meeting. You have to wait 2 more council meetings before you adopt the ordinance itself.
Well,
Go ahead.
it seems to me that the problem is that there's not infrastructure there for the county to supply the water. And it's a city line. So the easiest solution would just be for the city to supply a meter and let them tie into it, just like they've done on Kilgore, and not annex them into the city.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but out in a couple of different areas, we've done that with sewer without annexing. that we've allowed source.
My understanding, and I didn't bring the, city ordinances with me, but my understanding is that, we have to have them annexed in to provide them utilities. We can't provide utilities outside the city boundary. That's my understanding.
Well, see, my understanding has always been if we annex people, we have to provide city services.
Correct.
So
That's
my suggestion would be that we postpone this till the next meeting until you find the answers to those questions.
That would be.
So is anybody objective to postpone it? Find the answer to the question that Councilman Merrick's asking. Can we give them a water tap without having to annex?
Well, that was I hate holding Mr. Romero up on his deal, and I really do. I know you're trying to get your home, but I think we have to do what's best for the city, and I think there's too many unanswered questions right now as to the best way to go about that. It just seems like it just seems problematic in the future to annex in 3.5 acres for one house. I don't know, it just makes more sense to me to clarify if we couldn't do it a better way.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question too.
Sure.
Can we find out information as to why the county specifically, we're all just thinking that probably the county can't get what they need to them, but could we find out through the county why they cannot provide water for them?
You can certainly inquire.
I would suspect.
Right,
We
that's-
have a line there already. So they couldn't come in and put another line on top of our line. That would be my suspicion. We
Well,
can
and
find
that's
that
what I'm
answer.
saying. We're suspecting all this and we're assuming all this, but could we get clarification as to why that way? Right, yes.
So my suggestion is if we're gonna postpone that, for all of you that have these questions, let's make sure that they have those questions ASAP so that they can research the answers and bring it back to us on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully.
we just want to do this right. I hope you understand that. So, okay,
Do we need a motion to table it or?
let's do a motion to postpone
Motion.
to the 23rd.
Okay, I make a motion to postpone this until the 20th.
Second,
I'm gonna give Mr. Merrick that second. Because I think Diane's got them all already, so. Have a motion to postpone until the 23rd for Mr. Rackler, a second by Mr. Merrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you for understanding that. We want to do this right, so thanks for all the discussion. Next is a recommendation for approval of resolution PC 2023-2024-20 for a zone change of properties 1113, 1115, and 1117 West Spruce Street from an R1 single family residential zone to an RA rural agriculture zone for the purpose of livestock. Ms. McClellan.
Yes, sir. So thank you. This is very similar to what we've done in the past, changing it for livestock. We've done a couple in the past 6 months. So what you'll see is the red line is the current city line. On the other side of Spruce is county. These two green indicated pieces of property are city. The property has been owned and it is grandfathered in for the livestock that's currently on it. There are some cows and a donkey. The donkey was important for the last meeting. In this area, which they're still allowed to be there because they've been grandfathered, but they would like to change it to a rural agricultural zone. So if it's sold or transferred, that the right to have livestock stays with that property. Chris, you go to the next one. We of course published this in the news. We sent out 11 certified letters to property owners. 1 was for against it. We did receive 1 against the proposal. However, they just checked the box that said they were against it and did not give a reason as to why they were against the proposal. We sent out 5 certified letters to public utilities and we received 3 in support of it. We did have 1 person at the public hearing speak for this application on the grounds that city councils approved ones that were located further within the city boundaries than this one. So that this one should be a little bit of an easier one to pass. We'll go to the next one, Ms. Chris. Unless if there's anything. Nope. That's it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions? There are no questions. What's the pleasure of the council on this particular zone change?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All we're doing is going with the resolution that this isn't a resolution on our part, correct? Okay, so we have a motion for approval of the Planning Commission 2023-2024-20 for the zone change at 1113, 1115, and 1117 West Spruce. There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is item C. Ms. McClellan, you're still here, okay?
I know. Thought you guys might miss me.
And this is ratification of animal shelter grant, Petco Love Vaccine Grant for 500 vaccines for distemper, parvo, and 125 vaccines for HCP, which is
It's the feline vaccine that protects a lot
Okay.
against your common viruses, like your rhinovirus. Ms. Christie, go to the next page. So here's just a little bit of information about it. So Petco Love is a charity. One of the charities that they run they help with free vaccine clinics for owned animals. That means they can't be used for any animals out the shelter, but if they're owned by the community, people can come get free vaccines. There's no match for the city. We would just have to give out surveys that we give to the grants and use their hashtag to show who supplied the vaccines. If you did approve this ratification, this grant, because there's a limited amount, so we turned it in before they ran out. It would also be the approval for reordering. Once we go through the stock, if we get it and there's more left, we're allowed to reorder and they'll send us more vaccines. We would add this free vaccines to our free registration clinic that we do once a month. Any additional unused doses could be administered at the shelter themselves. We requested 625 doses in total. We are having quite a bit of communicable diseases, so this would really help city out. If you have any questions about this grant, I'd be happy to answer them.
questions for Ms. McClellan. What's the pleasure of the council for ratification of this grant?
Move for approval.
A motion for approval by Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Rackler. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item is Chief Kathy. It's approval for mayor and fire EMS chief to sign the Fund Act certification page, the amount of this year's EMS Fund Act grant application for FY 25 is $914,000. Chief Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is our annual New Mexico Department of Health EMS grant that we apply for every year. Historically, we were funded anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. But this year we received some training and guidance from the Department of Health EMS Bureau, specifically the Fund Act coordinator, that we don't just need to ask for what we get, we need to ask for what we need. They're trying to show the justification for needing to increase that funding statewide. So therefore, we're requesting for $914,000 for training costs, BLS, ILS, ALS tools, medications, and equipment. A type 1 4-wheel drive ambulance, a type 1 2-wheel drive ambulance, 4 new cardiac monitor defibrillators, 2 Lucas chest compression systems, a medication dispensing machine, and a paramedic response unit. As I stated before, we're anticipated to get anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000, depending on their formula funding. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? Hopefully, we're going to get that done this year, Chief. I've been trying to get more money in that fund since 1986.
Whatever I can do to help, just let me know, sir.
Hopefully, we're going to tag into some previously unused funding that's been going to the general fund. So
sounds good.
What's the pleasure of the council on this particular grant application?
I make a motion, we approve.
A motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Merrick. There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Good luck. Next is public infrastructure ratification for mayor's signature on resolution 23-24-27 for a time extension for project number L200494 for Avenue K in front of Eastern New Mexico University. Joe.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Staff seeks ratification on the request for a time extension for Avenue K ADA project L200494 resolution number 23427 for an additional 3 months. This would allow for Constructors, Inc. to complete the sidewalks, curbs, and striping on Avenue K running from 2nd Street to Highway 70. The request comes from weather conditions creating issues with being able to pour concrete, as well as scheduling conflicts due to the inclement weather in other locations that has kept Constructors Inc. from coming to our location. This has pushed our project date past our deadline. The scope of work will remain the same as previous resolutions of ADA upgrades and concrete work. There will be no additional physical impact. And I'll stand for questions.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor. I think it's a wording issue, but Avenue K from Second Street to Highway 70 is not going anywhere. Second Street is Highway 70. So
Yes, you are correct. It is a wording issue.
that doesn't make sense to me to go. You're not going anywhere. Pardon me?
Second to 17th Street.
Okay, that probably needs to be corrected then before we go any further, because you're basically not going anywhere with this. You're just in one spot.
Yes, sir.
So,
It's a good catch. I was thinking the same thing. Mr. Mayor?
So, is there any ramifications for the contractor if they don't, get to this and we have to extend again?
Not that I know of.
Is there not anything in any of the bidding processes that say, that they have to come up with money compensation or anything for not meeting the demands?
That was, that language is not in the original contract.
Sometimes if it's weather, that's at school.
Yeah.
But normally on a
It's
construction
weather
project, the
hazard.
weather's in where the project is, and we didn't have any weather that should have stopped the project. So it's kind of
They could have
confusing.
moved things to.
They could have come here instead of going there.
Yeah.
Well, whenever it comes to, I'm told that whenever it comes to the concrete and pouring and the mixture, it has to do with temperature and moisture. And so those were the things that I was told.
So how long have we had this in the works that they were supposed to have been working?
This should have been completed December this month, so we're just asking for the 3 month extension
When did it start?
in 2020. It was postponed in 2020 due to COVID.
And we have to go with the original contract, right? We can't add anything else. So we can give them the extension of the 3 months, but can we put something in there that they have to have it done within the 3 months? And then if not, they have to compensate us or something. We can't add anything.
What we can't change it is for the state program that we participate in, and we have to follow state rules and regulations and standard contract. I mean, I'm not saying you can't get a further extension, but or deny a further extension, but it's really just a state program.
Is this something that we can, for the future, anytime we do anything, that we make sure we note that it has to be done, you know, at a certain time? If not, this is what it's gonna cost them so much,
Liquidated damage.
something that we
Again, I
have.
think what
Yes.
happened is with the COVID, they set it back, and when the state is getting around to catching up, they just say, okay, Portales, this is your slot, and they give it to us. So we either take it or we don't take it.
So we're working with the state.
Yes.
That's a whole different thing.
Take it away, take all the money.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any, can they claw back that money if we don't finish it within a certain time frame? When is our deadline?
So our deadline was December 31st, but if you approve the 3 month extension, then that buys us 3 months without having to get the money bought back.
So how long are they gonna allow us to keep extending till they're ready to come?
As long as we keep bringing it back before the deadline, because, yeah. we'll be fine.
We're not gonna,
Miss the deadline then?
Hold on, one at a time, please.
All right. Did you already miss the deadline?
No, that's why we are asking for ratification. We're able to get Mayor Jackson's signature on it, because the deadline was December 31st, so we didn't have a meeting. Within that time frame, so we did not miss the deadline.
I was able to get the paperwork in time for the state to go ahead and look at all of the paperwork and to make a decision. I just haven't seen anything on the decision yet.
my comment was that we're not gonna improve that much in temperatures in 3 month period, so. I mean, we're looking at by the end of March, still having to have it completed, and so.
There's
There's gonna be windows in there.
Yeah, as long as it isn't with the city of Portales isn't the cause or the reason for the delay, they usually will grant it, and especially in this condition where they know they can't put it down in certain weather conditions, they'll probably grant it another one.
Hopefully we don't need it though.
Mr. Mayor, so
Go ahead.
if
This
you've
is
already,
offered to us by the state, it's not something that was negotiated, this is what they offered us.
right,
Okay.
but if you've already sent it in, are you gonna be able to make that correction to the first paragraph of your
Yes, I can do that.
ratification.
Staff summary is just for your record. So if you look at the resolution, it doesn't say Avenue K to Highway.
Okay,
That was just my mistake.
okay.
Any further questions? What is the pleasure of the council on the ratification on this resolution 23, 24, 27?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Cordova. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item. We've had a lot of discussion on this already, Mr. Moore, but discussion and introduction of public participation ordinance. Mr. Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've had the discussion. I prepared this last month, I think, a month before, sent it out to council members. I haven't heard from any of you, but if the council, if any of you do want any changes, corrections, or anything other than what the citizens requested in your comments, I'll get it prepared and I'll send it out to you again. And if you see anything on it that you think we need to change, modify, please let me know. And we'll go through the same process we did tonight. We put it on the agenda for motion to move for the adoption. And hopefully meet criteria that the public has expressed here today. I would like your input though on the public discussion. All the public discussion brought up some ideas, but I would like your public input on how you want this handled, because it's your resolution.
Mr. Mayor.
I'll send a letter out to each of you tomorrow on that, regard to that.
Mr. Rackland.
I was gonna say, I'll go into more detail when I respond to you, but the citizens brought up a lot of the same ones I have marked all over this piece of paper. I think there's no way we can have the expectation of people having to go to a committee meeting before they can speak at a council meeting. I just think that's completely out of bounds. And I think that, I just want to say, I think the council's done a great job in the last month and a half, 2 months of including the community more by increasing the number of speakers and allowing time for people to speak. And this is a step backwards. And I don't want to go to less people. I think that's just a step in the wrong direction. I think the 6 people should still be in there. That's one of the ones I had highlighted. I think people should be able to, just as Mr. Davidson said, they ought to be able to speak on any topic. If dumpsters aren't on the issue, but you've got a dumpster problem in your neighborhood, you ought to be able to come to city council and say something about that. There was a statement on, I agreed with number 10 should be stricken altogether. And number 14 has the word quasi judicial, and I don't even have a clue what that means. I don't know how something's quasi judicial. So I don't know how that would limit a person, because I don't know what that means. So that's my comments to this point. And I'll elaborate.
I just want to thank everybody for coming. I think the reason that everybody comes to these city council meetings is because they're so concerned about what's going on in the city. We all, and I've said this before, we all have dumpster problems too, and things that don't get picked up or whatever. And I want to make it to where it's not so, you have to follow this rule and this rule. And I know that rules are made because of trying to keep everything in order and keep everything going and flowing. But I kind of agree, like what a lot of the comments were tonight, and I appreciate you all coming concerned on that, because this is our community and we all need to be a part of that. And we all need to be able to speak. And so many times when you have, and with us being on council, people will call us and say, okay, my trash didn't get picked up. We are able, and we have that communication with our city manager to be able to call her and say, what is the reason for this? Why isn't this not being done? And then she gives us that reason, and then we are able to go out. But when you yourselves have comments like what Mr. Rackler said, if you have a problem with the dumpsters, or there's wild dogs running around or something, I feel as a council member that we should be able to allow the public to come in and speak. And then it might be, you know, you've got that on your mind and you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to bring that up. But when you do come to the council meeting, and now that we're on live stream, people will be able to hear that. So I think the communication between the council, I know this falls here, but we are part of you and you are a part of us. So we need to keep that open. So I am in agreement with everything that we're saying here. And thank you, Mr. Dorr. We will make sure that we look at this as councilmen and then send anything to you, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further comment?
I I agree with what's been said and what's been presented by the public tonight. And one comment was on 8, where it limits the city council or the mayor from responding to any questions. And I think that that needs to be opened up also, because the council or the mayor might have a comment to make that would solve the issue, a response, and not let it sit there and fester until the next council meeting. So I feel like that one needs to be addressed also.
Anybody else? Jake?
Oh, I just have a quick, sorry.
We're gonna start limiting the number of times you get to speak. How about that?
So I have a question. So just for clarification, and especially since we have new councilmen, when we have the public comment and we have citizens from the community come and voice their comments, whatever it is, or their complaints or their concerns, what is the next step after that? Just so in case someone calls and says, I went to the city council meeting the other night and I did get to speak, but then it was like, okay, thank you. So,
Well, and I'll explain it to you individually in my correspondence tomorrow.
okay, very good.
There are laws, rules, and regulations that apply. You can't, I mean, I appreciate public input, and I think the majority of it is helpful, but you cannot react to somebody that comes in and says, and your point on, committees. You have committees that schedule hearings, and they have people that attend, and 10 people may show up and say they're in favor of it, and so the council, or the committee approves it, sends to the city council, and then you have somebody show up at a commission meeting and saying, I don't, I wasn't given notice of this, you need to consider it. And that throws the entire process off. So I mean, it's a great idea, but if you've got entities that are putting together these things and presenting it to you, you have to send it back to those entities to get a response. Because otherwise, you're just listening to one half of the argument.
But you might also have information that comes to light between the committee meeting and the council meeting that could change the outcome of it. And then they're not able to present that information.
Well, and that would, again, it's just how far you want to extend that process. Are you, who's gonna make the determination whether it came up or it didn't come up? Who's gonna make the determination whether it was decided? If that's that's the purpose of having these hearings. That's the purpose of having people like tonight. These people showed up and gave input. There could be 20 other people or 100 other people in the city of Portales that have comments. They didn't show up. They didn't make input. So you offer them the opportunity to show up at a committee meeting or a city council, and you listen to them and you react to what they say. If somebody who wasn't there comes up with a different question or a different concern, that's not how the process works. I mean, you open it up to public input.
Okay, my only concern with that, Mr. Dorr, is I was at that planning and zoning meeting. And I was told by the people on that committee that their job was only to decide whether it was legal or not for that to happen. And it was up to the council to decide whether it was best for the city. So without that discussion, you can't, that defeats the purpose of what you're telling me. Now, if we need to go back to our committees and say, look, that's not the role, then fine, but that's how it was presented to me. That's why I was confused, because I was told their only role was to, if it was legal for that to happen, they send it on to the city. So
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dorr, when something comes to the city council from planning commission, we accept or deny their recommendation. So if they say no, we decide whether we want to go with, we don't really discuss it because they've done that part of it. So we accept or deny the recommendation. So for example, something comes to us, the city council, they recommend it be approved. We say, yes, we want to approve it. Or if we say no, basically it goes back to the planning commission.
It can go back if they reapply.
So we only accept or deny their recommendation.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's what I was making the point on. If they accept it or they reject it, and one person shows up and tells you this and this, and you take action on it, now you deny it. Basically, you're changing the outcome based on one person or 6 people that come versus the 10 people that were at the meeting itself and presented. So it's a complex sort of, issue. The public has a right to attend those meetings, and if they're involved. If they don't have notice, and I heard tonight that there were some people that couldn't get in, that's something that you need to look at. We perhaps need to review the ordinance and see how the process is, because you know, when you say you want to be part of the government and you want to, the city needs to listen to you, that's why you have these committee meetings set up. So the issue should be directed to that area, to that issue, and the people, all the people should have a right to speak at those meetings. And if it goes on for hours, that's what those committees are set for. But the committee then makes that determination by vote, and then they send it to you. And so you really can't change that recommendation. You can deny it, you can ask to be sent back, or you can approve it. So this really isn't the right venue for people to bring up concerns they have, unless it's a concern that the rule wasn't complied with, they violated this, they handled it improperly. And again, a lot of that can be conducted by contacting their council member. And we can check into it. If there's something improper, you contact me. If there's something that wasn't done right, you contact city manager, and she'll reach out and get this information. But the issue is, there's really not enough data before this council to respond to what was said. Now, the conversation, the information you received on that public comment, that was perfect, because you are the ones that are adopting that ordinance. And so everything that was brought in now will be sent back to you to say if you want to add, how you want to change it, how you want to work it. But when it comes from a committee, well, that's, you either approve it, or you reject it, or you send it back with questions.
So I think we can, hold on, because get your comments to Mr. Dork with regard to the things that we've discussed. I'm going to take exception to something you said, though. I have talked to you about this. I've talked to you a couple of different times. First of all, telling you that I don't think this needs to be done by ordinance, and I still don't believe it needs to be done by ordinance. The other thing is, I don't know what's wrong with the way we've been doing it. Things have been working pretty well with the way that we've addressed this public comments. I attend meetings of county commissions in Lee, Eddy, and Chaves counties, and city council meetings in Jal, and Eunice, and Hobbs, and Carlsbad. And I don't know of any of those communities that have a formal adoption of their public comment. So my suggestion is, if the council wants to have this adopted or have something adopted, first of all, it needs to be done by resolution or just an acceptance of a policy, because an ordinance is, for the most part, a law. And if we wanted any changes, then we have to go in and repeal or amend whatever ordinance. So in the meantime, I think that what you do is get your comments to Mr. Dork of what you want. And we can have this discussion of adoption or whatever at our next meeting. We can either, if it's something you like, we can adopt it. If it's something you don't like, well, then we can refuse it and we can move on. So if we'll just get those comments to Mr. Dork, and we'll get it out to everybody. If everybody hasn't had ample time to review it and discuss it, then we'll postpone it another time. So
Sounds good.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the input.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Our last action items are from the city manager, and the first one is inducement resolution number 23, 24, 28 for LEDA. And Mr. Rackler, I appreciate your comment to me the other day. LEDA is the Local Economic Development Act, which was adopted in 2002 by the taxpayers and by a vote to impose a 1/16 GRT to fund this local economic development. Okay, so let's be really careful here with some new people that we use the acronyms and help everybody understand what those acronyms are. So, okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I stand before you with the resolution 23, 24, 28 in regards to the Enchantment Vineyards Local Economic Development application. You guys approved that at the December 12th meeting. It was a request for $50,000 to seek funding from the city to enlarge and expand their current facility in Portales. We did go over this in the December 12th meeting, but if any other questions have arisen, I'm here, and I see Miss Jody's in the audience too. You can stand and answer any questions that you have.
We actually did this at our last meeting, correct?
Yes, and so this is approval of the resolution, which we did not have at the last meeting.
So this is just codifying the action that was taken at the last meeting, that we've got new people. So if you have any questions, please. If not, if there's no questions, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 23-24-28 for LEDA grant for Enchantment Vineyards.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Merrick. Second by Mr. Rattler. Is that what I heard, or was it Diane down there?
It was not me.
So. All right. This is a resolution. We have to adopt resolutions and ordinances by roll call vote. So Ms. Swopes, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Rattler,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Resolution 23-24-28 has been adopted. Next is project participation agreement with Enchantment Vineyards.
So we have had a delay in getting the agreement out, and I did not get it to you in amount of time to read it. So we're gonna have to postpone that to the next council meeting. I apologize for the delay in that. I believe it was due to the holidays.
Now, is that going to affect your other grant?
Sure, that was the question. But I believe it was.
Okay.
We
I
can
mean,
get
we've
it.
known about this. How come we didn't have this?
I did send it over to legal, and he was out for 16 days on vacation.
Oh, and he
so
didn't take his phone with
He
him.
didn't take his phone with him. Yes.
Okay. So then our next one is the project participation grant with Roosevelt County Electric Co-op.
Yes, this agreement has been sent to legal for review and sent to you guys in your packet since Thursday. It is, this was approved at the December 12th meeting as well, and this is for the transfer of the old city hall to Roosevelt County Electric Co-op in exchange for parking lots. Downtown, they're gonna do, I lost my words, but they're gonna do parking lots and charging stations. And the parking lots will allow for during the work weekday for 25% for the community to use. And then on the weekends will be full disclosure of usage. And then they will have two, I think they're medium charging stations is what they call them. They're not fast charging stations, but those will also be installed with the new location. I do
Any
send-
questions?
Mr. Mayor. I'm just confused on the process because these two things came to us at the last meeting, or they were on the last agenda the exact same way. And then this time, there's no inducement for this one, but there was an inducement for the other one. Why are they not? I'm not sure why things aren't lining up, I guess.
So we had the inducement resolution for this one. We got the application first, so we had more time. So we got the inducement resolution done in time for the Roosevelt County Electric Co-op. And we also had the project participation agreement, but their legal team had some changes. So I had to send that back to our attorney, so I couldn't give it to them on the December 12th meeting. We had to have it done by legal review, so that's why I'm bringing it
That
up.
one should have been done last time.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, but
'cause
they
that
had
makes
changes.
sense. We're doing two things here and then we don't do the same two things here.
Right. And they came in at different times is the only reason why there was a lapse, but I had a little more time on this one to get everything in line. And because there were changes by their legal team, we had to send it back to our legal to make sure that those were in line with what we want.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Mr. Merritt.
So we've got this agreement with Roosevelt County Electric, but there's basically the only compensation the city is receiving out of this is that they're demolishing the building and hauling off asbestos material on their dime and not costing us anything.
Right. And then we're also getting the ability to have parking for downtown and the charging stations.
Right. But we're not getting any kind of a compensation for the building or the lot.
No, sir.
But for the record, we are getting compensation. The compensation is they're cleaning off, removing the lot. They're providing 2 charging stations for the future and parking spaces for downtown. That's what the city is receiving as.
Yes, but
For the property.
monetary compensation, no, we're not getting anything.
Which qualifies under LEDA. And we avoid the. What's the pleasure? If there's no further questions, are there any further questions? What's the pleasure with regard to the public or the project participation agreement with Roosevelt County Electric?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Cordova. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Our next item is city council and staff comment. I'll start with the staff in the back. Does anyone in staff have any?
We do have water.
Okay,
So,
can you come to the podium, please? Just so everybody can hear you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So with the current water situation, we're gonna stick to water restrictions, stage 3. We are working on a water efficiency plan. The purpose of the water efficiency plan is to provide framework for the city to coordinate a response to a drought emergency. The intention of the water efficiency plan is to provide an effective and systematic way for the system or for the city of Portales to identify the deal with unmet needs caused by drought. The 2024 WEP is recognized through the resolution. This plan is intended to response to unmet needs due to drought conditions. So.
Any other, go ahead.
we ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Chris.
Yes, sir.
First of all, it's the middle of dead winter. I don't understand why we're still on a level 3 restriction.
So-
And to follow that up, the only document we have in place currently that put us at a level 3 doesn't, I mean, the tanks don't match what it says to be on level 3. So
So-
I don't even see why we can't get off of it until you get your new plan in place. And then if we meet a restriction, go ahead and put it back on.
So we're production over demand. Demand, we get what we get out of the well field right now. We're gonna stick to the restrictions until we can come up with a plan to further that, but as of right now, we're in a good spot with our well field. Being that we are in the restrictions, we're not asking anybody to do anything. We're not taking water away. And the fact that the restrictions are set in place, we do see a difference. Being able to continue our well field management, our construction out there, to be able to rest pumps, to do certain things that we need to do to take care of the well field. That way it's up and running and efficient for us moving.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but my point was what we have in place isn't written that way. So I mean, the current drought plan was written with certain restrictions of when they come off. And we're above those restrictions. So, I mean, I understand, but we'll at least get a new plan in place by March or before we start watering again.
Well,
and then if we
that's
can-
what this is.
Okay, but let's get off of it until then. That's my point.
So this will be looked over by the committee, the water or the drought contingency committee, correct?
Right on January 4th. We also have a town hall meeting for questions and answers on January 18th at 5:30 in the Memorial Building. The reason we don't want to come off the restrictions yet is because we are concerned about dropping our tanks to a level we will not be able to recover from. And because there are discrepancies in our current drought plan, we felt it would be safe to create the new plan. And our goal is to have that out by February, so we can start looking at water in the springtime.
So have we finished the audit on our wells?
We are still in the process of cleaning and aciding wells at the moment.
So didn't we go in and check the output of each well to see what it compared to?
We have, there was some wells down at that time. It is helping. We are getting, but we are still in the process of trying to clean and, just cleaning and rehabilitating as much as we can right now before the heavy pumping season starts again.
So basically my question is do you have data from each well that you put into a spreadsheet like you've had in previous periods of time that could be looked at currently, or are they still being collected?
We got the GPMs from every well probably a couple weeks ago. I want to say at the beginning of December. It is in a spreadsheet format. I can email the
And that's static
to
water
Sarah
levels.
or anybody.
Yes, please. Static water levels also.
Static water levels we have not gotten. We'll start that probably here this next month.
Any other questions for these guys?
I have a question. Sarah, do we have an exact date when that contingency plan is gonna be set, or we say February, but we have a,
So I have the January 4th is when the committee that's helping with it set up. If we make the changes and they approve it at that point, I plan on bringing it to the first meeting in February for your review and hopefully approval.
thank you.
So the goal is the first meeting in February.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
It's me. I would like to request, Mr. Mayor and the council, that we put together water advisory committee be formed to include a couple of council, some people from the community, our city manager, our public works director, maybe some experts. We've talked with Charlie Wilson in the past, where we start meeting, if we have to, on the weekly basis. I think it's very, very concerning that we're 6 months into this. The day that we went into stage 3, the next day we should have started with a plan. We should have said, okay, this is going to happen quickly. We're already 6 months into it. We're concerned, you're concerned. I mean, 6 months from now, it's going to be spring. And we need to get a committee together to where we start meeting and coming up with the plan. The contingency plan that you have as far as how to conserve water and what we need to do to avoid happening what has happened is great. But yet we need a plan for now and for the coming months and for the coming years, so this doesn't ever happen again. So I would like to request that we do get a committee together, and I don't know who would assign that. We could get names, we could get people that maybe would be interested in this, and to start getting together and figuring out what we need to do to go forward. We need to be, have reports every week, like every meeting that we have, our city council meeting, that the committee has come in. Here we go with this committee again. But in order for us to do this, we need to collectively, what's happened in the past has happened in the past. We don't want to let it happen again, but collectively between all of us in our community is get together and get this done. So whatever we need to do, Mr. Mayor and council, I'm asking for the council's support on this too, is that we move forward with this. It's time.
I agree.
Sir. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Mendoza? On this? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on staff have any comments
Thank you.
this time? Sarah?
I just want to say congratulations to everybody for their new endeavor. Thank you for taking the time to invest into our city, because we need all the great minds together on this situation. So thank you, everybody.
Mr. Rackler, I'll start with you. Any comments?
Yeah, I just have one. I have one recommendation myself that I would like to see us do. For 14 years, I was a director on the Portales Schools as the IT director, and every month at the meeting of the board, I had to give a report as a director. I would like to see the department's heads report once a month. You could split them half and half, where one of them doesn't have them do it the first time, have them do it the second time. But I would like to hear from the department heads themselves. When that report would go from the superintendent rather than from me, my IT department wasn't getting the recognition I wanted them to get. I'd much rather, as a department head, give my own report. As a director, I gave my own report because I could brag on my staff. I could tell people what we had been getting done and accomplished. I think those things is we need to be hearing from them. You have a lot of that in this document that was here, but I've never seen that before. So I didn't know, though that's not part of the packet, your monthly report thing. I would like to see each department head give a report and put that in somehow, somewhere in the future. Soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Parker.
Update on the lights on First Street by the chamber.
We're
It's
waiting
still
for
dark.
Bellis and Bolts to come in.
I'm sorry.
We're waiting for Bellis and Bolts to come in.
Okay,
They're getting harder to get because.
okay. So then we will get those changed and then we'll have light through there. Okay.
We got a couple of them changing there.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Merritt.
Yeah, I would just like to ask where we're at with our discussions on EPCOR. I mean, we've had a couple of meetings where they came in and addressed the council in 2 different meetings so that we didn't have a forum. But we hadn't really done anything since then, so are we to where we can bring them in and let them look over our system and just give us a proposal of what they would be willing to do?
That would be at the pleasure of the mayor and council. If you guys direct me to put that on the next agenda.
I would love to see us have them come in and give us an estimate of what they could do and how they could help us and.
Second.
I mean, it may not be an option whenever we get through with it, but at least we know, we know which way we can go. So. Also, I'd like to know how many applicants that we had put in a letter of interest for the Ward C.
I'll get to that in my comments.
Okay. Okay, that's about it.
Kelly, I just want to say good job on everything that you're doing with animal control. I know that was been a really sore subject for a lot of us. You've done an amazing job getting that up and running and the new building, and all of these grants that you're applying for have been tremendous help for not only owners, but for the community as well. And then I'd also like to just thank my family for being here tonight. I know that sometimes when we're up here, it's, it's a tough job listening to a lot of things that we listen to, but my family's always there for me. So I would just like to say thank you. Your turn. Oh, Jason.
Mr. Lopez.
I'd like to ask our city manager, I'm being getting a lot of complaints from the county. How are we doing with the opening the whole thing for the water? Like we had cut part of the water out.
So
Did we open it already?
We did open back up slightly, yes.
Completely?
I don't think we did it completely.
Well, we need it completely. Because, those people need the pressure on. It's not their fault that we're in this situation. We have to help them out.
Anything else?
I think just recently they had to shut 1 and 2 back down because they had a leak out there, but they got it repaired pretty quickly, so. There was like a 2 or 3 hour delay, but.
And I haven't washed my car or my truck in all summer, so, I can't even wash my car now.
And we still can't.
All right, is that it, Mr. Lopez?
That's it.
All right, I have a couple of comments. To answer your question, we've had 4. I plan on making my recommendation to you guys at our next meeting based on those 4 applications. I have a couple more I want to visit with before we do that, but I plan on making that. I also plan on making a majority of the committee appointments at our next meeting. I think I've talked to a couple of you already about some things, and we'll get those done at the next meeting. Looking forward to working with our new Mayor Pro Tem. I'm also looking forward to working with our new council members, and I think we're gonna start making some progress. I appreciate that. And with that, stand adjourned.